Well, the last Indiana poll is still open, and Donald Trump, he is trying to close out Ted Cruz. If the Donald wins tonight, what happens tomorrow in this crazy GOP race? Then it is sentencing day for Shelley Silver, the former Assembly Speaker. He learned his fate this afternoon, the same day we learned about another big corruption investigation in the Empire State. And also more drinking water woes. That is, New Jersey ratchets up testing, and Newburgh declares a state of emergency. That after contamination found. We will look into how bad this is and how bad it could get. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thank you so much for joining us. And we begin this evening in Indiana. That's where polls are still open, but will close shortly. Now, the last ones, as we mentioned, will close in about an hour's time. And Donald Trump, he's hoping to close out Ted Cruz at the end of the counting. Now, those guys are really going after one another as they go for the votes.
The man is utterly amoral. This man is a pathological liar, a serial philanderer, a narcissist. Hoosiers will come out and vote today in record numbers to say to this country, this is not who we are. We are a people who believe in goodness. We are a people who believe in manners.
He is choking like a dog because he's losing so badly. We have to put him away, folks. We got to get out and vote.
Choking like a dog. I don't whatever. Okay, now a lot at stake here. 57 delegates up for grabs. That makes this the second biggest contest left, and after California, which will vote on June 7th. Now, if Trump has a big night, and the polls suggest he will cross 1,000 delegates, and he'll widen his lead in the process over Cruz, and also he'll be on that path and on that trajectory that he'll get to the magic 1287 before he gets to Cleveland. All right, let's bring it up panel right now. Kostas Panagopoulos, professor of political science and director of the Center for Electoral Politics and Democracy at Fordham University. I got it right the first time. Sure. Scott Vanderhoff, former 5-term Republican, Rockland County executive and co-chairman of the Palisades Institute of Dominican College. And Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent. And Andrew, again, we'll get to the politics, but the simple math here, if he does really well tonight, he's past that trend line. He'll make that magic number, so we won't even get to a second ballot in Cleveland, theoretically.
He's already ahead of his trend line. If he has a big night tonight, he'll expand on that, and he'll be even further ahead of the curve of where he needs to be. The other thing is this keeps the votes away from Ted Cruz, and this is a state where you would think Ted Cruz would do particularly well if this had been, let's say, earlier in the election cycle. So it's both a big positive for Trump, a big negative for Cruz. Really, I think if it's a big win for Trump tonight, we'll be talking about game over tomorrow. Well,
and what Andrew's referring to, Scott's the evangelical vote that's out there, which certainly Cruz is trying to capitalize on. He tried with the Carly Fiorina running mate and all the rest, and tried to do, obviously, that coalition with Kasich. None of it really seemed to take. We'll know this evening what will happen. But nonetheless, that narrative that, hey, Manafort, his campaign manager for Trump, said this is all an act here behind closed doors. This is really just a character. Really, at the heart of it, he can be an adult. He can be presidential. Trump gave a couple moments of that, but then quickly we've seen other ones. But today and yesterday, what we've seen out of Trump, I think no matter what happens in Indiana, and maybe they can't stop the train, is there's got to be a level of discomfort from the Republican establishment about what they're getting right now. And when I say establishment, I don't mean a few guys. I mean people who've made Republican politics their life. And for folks who don't know, there was a National Enquirer story. And again, I'm going to stress here the source of this. The National Enquirer, they put out a story that said that Ted Cruz's father was linked to the assassination of JFK. Now, this is the same publication, of course, that has brought us alien landings and 12-headed people walking down the streets and the rest. Well, Trump decided to tweet that, and he certainly got under the skin of Ted Cruz. But the idea that the likely Republican nominee, just months from the convention, is parroting stories about unsourced ones, this is the first and last time you see me defend Ted Cruz, that his father was involved in the assassination of a U.S. president, and that's your nominee saying that? I mean, there's got to be a lot of uncomfortable, conversations going on in Washington and other things to say, can we really get behind this guy? And can we afford not to get behind this guy?
Well, and this discussion, of course, has been going on for a year. I mean, it's not, it is. I call it the mainstream
But
Republican.
every time he shows a little leg, Scott, to say, I can be an adult here, he does that,
Yeah,
right?
but you know, it only lasts for about 5-10 minutes, and then he's right back. You can't change the stripes here. I mean, he is what he is. I think what's happened, though, is the Republicans are war-weary. I mean, they're tired now. They're tired of this. I don't think Ted Cruz has helped himself with any of the moves he's made. I think, in fact, people are walking away from it and saying, no, I'm fed up. And I think what you're really seeing, even in Indiana tonight, are people saying, look, I'm done with these two. I'm not going to be a Trump supporter. I'm going to go for my local United States senator or my local, whatever,
but
county
you've
executive.
seen the crowd, Scott, wherever he can go. And that's the argument people make to me all the time is, you've misread this. This is a movement, Rich. We love the authentic Trump. Just look at, he'll fill crowds in the South. He'll fill crowds in the Midwest. He'll fill them in the Northeast. He'll fill them out West. He'll even fill them near the border, for crying out loud. He's tapping into something.
He is, but part of it is real TV. It's being there at a scene to have him say something outrageous, and so they can be part of the deal. By the way, Sanders is getting people too, more than Hillary in a sense, because he's speaking off his mind. I don't think that's indicative, and I don't think really is, of people who are going to support him for president.
Keep in mind, there's two remedies to the stuff that Trump is saying, the National Enquirer thing. One is to try to get Donald Trump to behave himself, which good luck if anybody knows the recipe to that. The second is to get Cruz out of the race, or to have the GOP establishment come in and say, we need to settle this down for the good of the party.
What makes you think, Andrew, and I've heard that before, that if you get him to behave, you get Cruz out and say, okay, it's yours, that he won't go, completely off the reservation this time against Hillary, which maybe that's a more likable target. But again, do they want to defend? You're running now for a Senate in a contested state, and he's saying misogynistic stuff. You still need female voters to vote for you.
Yeah.
Can you really think you can control him if he's the last one standing?
No, I think the GOP establishment has come to the conclusion that they cannot control Donald Trump. But if the target is Hillary Clinton, you can distance yourself a little bit from him. Well, I don't share his belief in that. I don't agree with his statement on that. But I know the core issues that are facing the country, and you can still get behind the party without getting behind the guy. And I think that might be the strategy that Trump's employing by trying to go in this direction.
The truth is there aren't very many female voters out there anywhere in the country who are not already unfavorably disposed to Donald Trump, right? He's getting a 70% disapproval among women voters all over the country. So to some extent, you could say, well, he's already alienated lots of demographic groups, and that gives him some, flexibility, some freedom to basically say whatever he wants on the campaign trail, which he's doing, and we see it happening every day. So he's doubling down on a lot of these comments because within some portions of the electorate doesn't seem to be hurting and may actually be helping. And I actually think it's more than just a Trump movement. It's a Trump phenomenon. And across the country, he's got such a dedicated following within certain segments of the electorate that it may be too late to stop him at this point. And I think that a lot of mainstream establishment Republicans are coming to terms with the likelihood of a Trump nomination.
But now here we get to where it gets a little more complicated. The one thing about Trump is he's able in sound bites, when he's not telling you how fantastic he is and the size of his hands, to do things that can go on a bumper sticker. Build a wall, right? Stop them at the border, or we're gonna bar Arabs from coming in the country. The latest thing he's going on, if you close your eyes and you don't know who's saying it, about the outsourcing of American jobs. And he's going after major American corporations for sending American jobs overseas. That could be any party. But now you're a Republican. You're the party of low taxes. You're the party of less regulation. You're the party of free enterprise here. What do you do when your party standard bearer is going after the same corporations that are going to be sponsoring stuff that's going to be up on the walls in the Quicken Loan Center in Cleveland? How do you navigate that if you're Republicans? Do you still say, you know what, he gives us our best shot, it's better the devil I know than the one I don't, and get behind him after tonight? Or do you say, if I'm supporting him, am I supporting basically my own demise?
Well, I think that the Republican Party will be somewhat lukewarm in its support of Donald Trump if he ends up becoming the nominee. I don't know what choice they have at this point, right? And what they also recognize is that these issues, even though it's breaking the mold on a lot of the policies the Republican Party has traditionally stood for, these issues are appealing to large segments of the Republican electorate. So they're resonating with these Republicans. So there's a question about what is the Republican Party? Is it these voters and what they care about?
Scott,
or what
I got to hit a break. But your guess tomorrow, assuming hypothetically that Trump wins, Are the storylines going to be they're beginning to rally around the flag, or the people say a pox on all their houses, whether it's Cruz or Trump, it doesn't matter, I'm going to run my own race?
I think what you're going to see are people who are funding Cruz are out. They'll be done. Cruz is finished essentially, so he won't have, even going into California, it's going to be just paper mache, if you will. Because at this point, once you get that 1,000 delegate count, people are going to argue plurality is all you need. You don't need a majority. Let's cut this out and move on. And I think where they're going to move on is not in the presidential race. They're going to move on in local races.
Interesting. All right. When we come back closer to home, sentencing day for Shelley Silver, and the judge did not take it easy on him. We'll give you all the breaking details. Don was at the courthouse today. We'll have his report after this.